changer, history maker.
Welcome to the podcast of Refined and Unfiltered. I'm your host, Ashley Rogers, and I'm super excited to be recording my first podcast episode. I've been wanting to start this podcast for a while, and honestly, I don't have it all figured out, but I think that's the point, and that's the entire purpose of my podcast is refining yourself, and whether that's in business or life or relationships, whatever that might be. And so this is really going to be a space where I can talk open and honestly, just by myself or with guests about money, finances, life, relationships, without pretending that everything is perfect and polished, because it's not. So a little bit about me. So a brief background. Obviously, I'm a financial advisor. I do a lot of financial planning, focusing on that aspect, but I'm passionate about a lot of other things as well. And really, I try to be well-rounded just as a human being. I'm passionate about my family and my nieces, my nephews, and just spending time together. But I'm also really passionate about what I do. And I think me being a relationship person helps me in that aspect, because I thrive and I love the relationship part of this business and building relationships with people. And I have great relationships with my clients, and I've really learned over the last several years that this business is not just about money. It's about much more than that. It's money for people is tied to stress. It's tied to relationships, big decisions. And sometimes it can even be a sense of identity for people. So the point of Refined and Unfiltered and how that came about, I want my conversations to be thoughtful and super insightful, but I also want to be real and have real conversations, and show the side of money and finances that people don't talk about, and how it affects us as humans. And so my whole goal is to go deeper than just surface level, and go deeper on life, money, faith, relationships, growth, personal development, business, what it's like running a business. So why did I name my podcast Refined and Unfiltered? Because I believe that that's how we grow, is the constant refinement of yourself and your business, and whether that's through challenges, your experiences, your failures, your faith. But at the same time, it's important to be unfiltered, because if we show up as this version that's not who we truly are, we're doing a disservice to ourselves and the people around us and our business. And so I think showing up as our true selves is super important, and not pretending that we have it all figured out, because no one does. And so that's kind of how those go hand in hand, is the constant refinement, but also the unfiltered side of things. And so, yeah, I'm excited. My vision for this space is creativity. So just that creative side and that creative outlet of my life, but also honest conversations with real people to inspire my listeners, or you to think differently. Like I said, whether that's about money or relationships, business, but just to take action too, and to live with more clarity and more purpose. And if somebody can take a nugget from each episode, then I feel like I've done what I set out to do, and that's exciting to me if somebody can learn from just one thing. So I think sometimes I'm just going to share what's on my heart, which is kind of what I'm doing today. And then other times sharing learning experiences and what I've learned through owning a business at a relatively young age. And other times I'm excited because I'm going to bring on some guests that have a lot more wisdom than me and can share their experiences and, you know, how they've won and lost in business, and entrepreneurs and their journeys and their stories, because I think life is all about just learning from other people and learning from your past failures and your relationships, and also hopefully sharing a few laughs, because this podcast was not created to be super boring. So, yeah, my hope is that you leave this podcast every episode just leaving feeling encouraged, challenged, and reminded that you're not navigating your journey alone. And like I said, it's mostly centered around money, but life is so much more than that. So being refined means that I want to bring value, lessons, and perspective. And unfiltered just means that I won't sugarcoat it. So talking about the messy parts, the things that aren't in the highlight reels of social media, of Instagram and things like that. So I want to share a personal story that as I was thinking about this episode and how I got here, I think that looking back, God played a big role in why I am where I am, because as I was thinking about the last 3 to 5 years, actually 6 years, it's kind of crazy how everything started to intertwine and line up. So yeah, when I think about the vision for my podcast, my own journey comes to mind. So I think it was 2019. I decided on a whim that I was going to sign up for an Ironman. I had actually just had shoulder surgery in April, and fitness has always been a big part of my journey. And as with any big major moment in your life like that, you have a lot of different emotions, and I was probably feeling sorry for myself, but I wanted a new challenge, and I'm like, okay, let's start an Ironman, or let's start training for an Ironman. So I think it was like $500. I signed up, and it was around my birthday in June, and 2 months later I started my career in the financial industry. And so jumping into finance 2 years later with really no background in that, like I had no idea how much those two journeys would start to overlap. So the next 3 years was really a grind. I made a lot of sacrifices, both in business, whether that was like sacrificing time with family, friends, but also both in training for my Ironman. So the first race was supposed to be a half Ironman. And then I had planned on continuing on and doing a full. And then obviously COVID happened, and so everything got pushed back a year. And so I had spent a whole year training, and then realized that I just had to keep going. And like I said, at that same time, I'm building my business and learning about the financial industry, and learning, getting licenses, and prospecting, and building my book, and just, being exhausted. And so fast forward to 2022 of June, I completed the full Ironman. And then 2 months later, I took a huge leap, and I went completely independent, which means I left the company that I was at, and decided to be an independent financial advisor. And so that's where my business came about, Refined Wealth Solutions. It was super scary, and at the time, I didn't realize how kind of what I was getting myself into. Kind of like the Ironman, I had no idea how much work it was going to take and how many hours I had to put in. And but that Ironman prep and that training prepared me mentally, physically, and emotionally for the challenges of independent business ownership in the financial world. I think both journeys refined me, and I signed up for an Ironman with literally zero idea of what I was doing. I couldn't even swim to the end of the pool, and had no idea how to ride a road bike or a tri-bike. I had background in running, but the other two things, but I've always just been like a figure it out person. So I knew that, I'll figure it out, and that's what I did. And so the same was true when I stepped into finance. I saw the possibilities of what it could be, and tried to see the bigger picture and kind of just ran with that, and just said, I'll figure it out. I don't know how at this point, but whatever I need to do, I will. And I think sometimes ignorance is bliss. I probably had no idea how close I was to failing, during my Ironman training or during, this 4 to 5 years in business ownership and learning how to be an advisor. But I like I said, I figured it out. I lacked the knowledge. I lacked the work that it took to train for an Ironman, what it took to run a business, the operations side of it. But eventually I just kept evolving in both. And once I was in, there was really no turning back, and just had to keep pressing forward. And I was exhausted. I was broke, and I was unsure if I was going to make it. And each day, though, I just kept pressing on, and just kept moving forward. And that's what I think is so cool about how my business became Refined Wealth Solutions. It had nothing to do with the Ironman training. It was just, I loved the idea of that word, refinement or being refined. And I love my faith and my walk with the Lord. And I think that as a Christian, you are consistently and constantly working towards that refinement of yourself and trying to be more like Jesus. And so through that all, the prep of the training and how much alignment there was there, I just really leaned into learning and being a sponge. I've always tried to soak up knowledge from others, internally, sometimes externally. I can kind of be a know-it-all sometimes, I feel like, but I've definitely evolved in that. And I think that this experience of getting into the financial world and learning something completely new has really humbled me and helped me grow in a lot of different ways. But I'm a firm believer in not reinventing the wheel, but finding a way to make it yours and make it personal. And that's what sets you apart. And I have some really great mentors, one in particular who has taught me so much and has taught me that, this business, there's a lot of financial advisors, and a lot of people can do things very similarly, but it's about, how can you make it yours, and how can you connect with your clients on a different level and build relationships. And so that whole story is really where Refined Wealth Solutions came from, is just the constant refinement and wanting to be better. And I just think refinement never stops. My business is still being refined. My story is still being refined. My clients' financial journeys are consistently and constantly being refined, and so is yours. And so that's why I started this podcast, is because I wanted to share the unfiltered truth while I'm in the middle of the process of growing my business and still being, like I said, a pretty new and young business owner, and sharing that it's not just the polished version of me after everything's all figured out, continuing to grow and showing that growth is messy and refinement is ongoing. But I think that's where the best stories are. So I think that concludes the first episode of Refined and Unfiltered. Thank you so much for listening and sharing this. I'm hoping that this can be a tool for people to not just be noise in their ears, but really get some nuggets, like I said before, from that. And I'm excited because I think if you stick around, you're going to hear stories, lessons, and conversation that mix money in real life. So we'll see you in the next episode.
Changer, history maker. We gon' make some history tonight. We gon' make some history tonight.